Welcome back, my friends, to the Predictive Playbook. I'm your host, John Ryan, and I am pleased to have Bobby Krivitsky on the show today. He is an NBA reporter for @B-Ball Insiders. He's the voice of Sports Map Radio. I do shows with him on Sports Map Radio now, and I absolutely love him as a host. And believe me, he's a much better host than I am. He's also a sports anchor, reporter, and former NFL, NBA columnist for the Bleacher Report. So welcome to the show, Bobby, and thank you for your time.
John, I love having you on Gambling Corner on the Diehards. Just spoke with you on Friday night's show. You were kind enough to take some time out of your busy schedule. And I really enjoyed coming on here the first time on the Predictive Playbook about a month ago. So I'm excited to be back.
That's good to hear. We must be doing something right then to have a quality guy like you wanting to come back. That's good.
Just trying to make the people some money.
Yeah, that's it. At the end of the day, that is what matters. And just a real quick recap. I gave out an Olympic pick on your show that didn't quite pan out. And then yesterday I had another one in swimming. And it was the girl's name is first name is Tori and the last name is Hawk. I believe I'm pronouncing it right. And I know the name. She's up and coming 100-meter butterfly specialist. And she was leading the whole way. And at plus 650, and it does sound odd that I'm talking about betting with swimming, But anyway, plus 650, and the favorites are closing in on her. She's out there in lane 2, so that's considered a burner when you're away from the middle of the pool and the favorites. And somehow she lost the gold medal by 14/100ths of a second, and did not medal.
Oh.
So she came in fourth, losing to the winner of the race by 14/100ths of a second, and it was 7/100ths of a second for the bronze.
It's amazing how close these races go, John. And that advice might not have come through thanks to a shocking finish there, but I did love you divulging on Friday that you were quite the decorated swimmer in your past.
Oh, yeah, by today's standards, I probably swam backwards. We were going so slow, but, It is amazing what they're doing. I have no doubt you're going to see some world records that'll just get absolutely crushed. And that'll probably start tonight. And it's good. I like watching it live. It's too easy to be told what happened in the Olympics, and then you kind of watch it, and it's not nearly as exciting as watching somebody win or lose by fingertips, and that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, it zaps the drama from it. So watching the finish with Ledecky, unfortunately, she couldn't get it done last night. But that was an exhilarating race. And then the men's relay where they were able to get off to a great start and take gold. So I'm with you. It takes the drama away from it if you already know the ending. That's
true. And I saw Ledecky swim the 1500 today in the heat. And this was right after a 200-meter qualifier, too. So this is the busiest time for her and one of the most demanding that any Olympic athlete could go through. She had to swim the 1,500 meters in a heat and actually broke the Olympic record. So nobody should think that her second place finish is something to worry about going forward. I think she'll win the 800 and enact some revenge on the Australian who beat her. But it seemed like the sportsmanship is what was so cool, in my opinion. Ledecky gets beat, and what is she doing? She's hugging the winner, like it's her sister or her best friend. And there was no animosity, there was no sour grapes ever. And swimming seems to have that across the board. That it's not the end of the world if something doesn't go exactly right. Silver's not too bad either, but when you're Ledecky, that's a different color medal than she's used to getting.
Yeah, exactly. But I totally agree with you there that the grace that both sides show in winning and losing respectively, it's part of what being an Olympian is all about.
Well said. Well said. You're absolutely right. If we had some more of that type of behavior in some of the other sports in the professional level, I think we'd be a lot better off. We'd have a lot less to talk about, too.
Yeah, that's true. It would take a lot of that drama. It's a whole different version of it, but we'd be without it.
Yes, we would. Well, we're going to talk baseball and NFL here, and let's start out with the baseball part. We have a lot of situations going on here with the baseball situation. Boston appears to be pretty set. Won't be too active from what I hear in the final days of the trading deadline. But the Yankees here are 9 games back and 3.5 now out of the wild card. And I just cannot get a feel for what they are going to do. I can't imagine them being sellers. It just wouldn't make sense for them to ever. I just can't even get my hands around that idea. I mean, they overpay. And I think there's a lot of assets that are going to come out of maybe the Chicago Cubs that they will be glad to have it added onto their roster. You have any thoughts about the deadline coming up and if the Yankees are going to be the dominant force in it?
Well, the Yankees are hard to get a feel for. Like you said, one of the players they were linked to is now former Pirates second baseman and all-star Adam Fox. He goes to the Padres in a trade last night. So he's off the table for the Pinstripes. It's not clear what they're going to do. The Cubs, like you said, they're going to be one of the biggest sellers between now and July 30th. I don't know if the Yankees land a Rizzo or a Bryant. I certainly don't see them acquiring Craig Kimbrell. So that might not be the team that they poach from. I think what they need to do, though, is start to dig themselves out of the hole they've dug themselves into with the long term in mind. So not going after rentals unless they're highly confident they'll be able to re-sign them.
Yeah, I agree too. And the problem with the Yankees is there's so many teams they have to jump over, and they're in a tough enough division right now. For whatever reason, Toronto has not done well after the All-Star break here. And this is some interesting numbers I ran out of the database. So this is stuff after the All-Star break. And if you didn't know already, my trivia question would be, who's the number one team since the All-Star break, both in earnings and record? It's rather shocking, and it's in the American League East. So there's your help.
If you're legitimately asking me and you're attaching the shocking tag, then I would have to drop all the way down to the Orioles.
That's it. That is it. They have made.
You give me a lot of helpers to find the answer, so yep. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I didn't want to put you on the spot there. So, the Orioles are 6-2. So they have the highest win percentage of any team out of the break and have made the $100 better, $581 so far. And the Rays are 6-3. The Cardinals, Tigers, Orioles all have 6 wins. And then, the rest of the major league is kind of right around 500. The Dodgers, however, are 4-5. They've lost the $100 better, $482. And that's the danger of betting these big favorites. They've averaged a 190 favorite in these 9 games. And when you go 4-5, let alone 5-4, you're going to lose a ton. And that's why you should not bet these big favorites in a consistent fashion. But the Rangers, not surprising, are last 0-7. I think they've lost 11 or 12 in a row now.
Yeah, it's one or the other, but it's more than 10. I know that for sure. And then, like you said, just to circle back to the Dodgers, it's rough to see how quickly out of the All-Star break that their bullpen is taxed, which isn't surprising given the injuries to the rotation. Kenley Jansen's getting booed at home and blowing multiple save opportunities. Mookie Betts is on IL. So still a really good team with a promising outlook for the postseason, but right now, a lot of struggles.
And I'll segue right into the Kimbrell situation and acquiring him as a tremendous closer, at least this year. He is 35 years old, though, so there is risk going forward for next season. But if teams like the Dodgers only care this season and the Phillies, I think they're the two that make the most sense that would go after Kimbrell with like a real offer. And I could be dead wrong, but both those teams, I think, I really think the Phillies, if they got the closer situation fixed, they would chase down the Mets. Especially as the more that DeGrom is out, the more chance they're going to get overtaken by probably the Phillies. So do you think that is a realistic thing, that Jansen is so bad now? And he is bad. You can't sugarcoat it. It's not good. And for whatever reason, he's still in that closer role. They could bring in Kimbrell if he was willing to be the setup man for him. And I think that combination actually might work pretty well. It takes the pressure off of him, allows him to get back to pitching. And just your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I think Jensen's arm is shot right now. And so bringing in a reliable closer like a Craig Kimbrell to be able to man down the end of games while getting Jansen some rest, I think it's not even just figuring out in the short term, at least, who sets up and who closes. It's getting Jansen a few days off here to try and rejuvenate his arm. So that to me is the smart play and why it makes sense for the Dodgers to get. It doesn't have to be Kimbrell specifically, but to get someone who they trust to close out games, because if they just go with Jansen and they have to consistently rely on him down the stretch, then it makes it an even more concerning situation come October.
I completely agree. Yeah, this is where you're dealing with the problem I guess I see in professional sports on a high-level overview is you have so many players making 10, 20, 30 times what the manager's getting paid. The manager's getting paid well, but then you have the egos of some of the players and their willingness to, you know what, I'll be accountable. My pitching has just been god-awful, and helping me by getting Kimbrell here would be just a great thing right now. You still get the same paycheck, and to get yourself out of the crossfires every day with the media, I would think that some of these guys actually would go that way. Not that they're giving up. It's just that sometimes you need to have a break. You go 0 for 20 at the plate, and you're the number 2 hitter. You need to go down to 8 and figure things out. And when you do, you get put back at 2, and everything's good. But for whatever reason, Jansen has like something hanging over the manager. I don't know if that's even true, but I mean, I've never seen anything go on this long. Extending more than a season now. And of course his flash stats don't look that bad, but when pressure is on with runners on base, he is terrible. I mean, it's just, I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah, and I think they need another reliable option at the back end of the bullpen. And I don't know what his mentality is when it comes to sharing that workload, but I think it's best for him. So maybe he is open to it.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. And maybe the Dodgers aren't even interested in Kimbrell, and they're just going to keep going in this fashion. I'm just speculating on kind of what I would do or what I see as the greatest need for those two teams.
Yeah, it's addressing a huge concern for a team they have legitimate possibility of going back-to-back.
Yep, that's right. So do you have anything else in baseball before we get to the NFL and that team that's in Wisconsin?
Well, just as far as some bets go, one that I'll get to specifically is when it comes to the Mets-Braves game 1 of this doubleheader today, I like the under at 6.5. You can get that at minus 115. If you want to fade the advice that I'm about to give, you can take the over at minus 105. That's according to Bet Online. So, like I said, it's a doubleheader. That means 7 innings, less opportunities to score, fewer chances for a bullpen to blow it. And for the Braves offense, they've posted 2 or less runs in 5 of their last 7 games. They're obviously without their best hitter in Acuna. Stroman, he's hard to predict, but he's also coming off an 8-inning shutout in Cincinnati, where he registered 7 strikeouts and only gave up 1 hit. Kyle Muller hasn't allowed more than 3 runs in a start. Granted, he's prone to walks, and the Mets offense ranks first in OPS and on base percentage since the All-Star break. So if you feel more comfortable just playing the money line, my advice on that front would be the Mets at minus 156.
Awesome stuff, Bobby. I love how you break down games. It's straightforward and no nonsense, and it makes you want to run to the window. That's what makes it good.
That's the goal. Try and be precise and give people the best advice possible to make some money.
Absolutely. I had a free pick earlier on the Cincinnati Reds. And if you don't mind, I'll just show this real quick.
Yeah,
I wasn't planning on doing this, but why not? So this is what we call the Major League Baseball betting angle of the day. Many of you are familiar with the NBA betting angle of the day that is aired on the Wager Talk NBA tip-off show every day. This is the MLB version. So what we're going to do here, and disregard the records here because they obviously didn't get pulled by my application the correct way. We know that Cincinnati's 51-48. The Chicago Cubs are two games under 500, like 48-50. So we do have Wade Miley, left-hander, going against Kyle Kendricks. And what we can't figure out, at least from my point, is why are the Cubs favored against Wade Miley, who is a lefty, and he's had a great season already. He's been consistent. So anyway, here's the system. Bet on road underdogs. Our road team is starting an excellent pitcher with a 1.25 or lower whip on the season. The home favorite is batting just 0.225 over the last 5 games and has a .310 on-base percentage for the season or lower. That's gone 46-30 for 61%, which doesn't really sound all that good, Bobby. 61%, that's still really good though, but it doesn't sound like 75%. But if you, with money line sports like baseball and hockey, you take in consideration that it averaged a 135 underdog bet over the last 5 seasons, has made the $100 bet or $3,000 plus just following this blindly. And I never encourage anybody to follow something blindly because these support my machine learning applications. But sometimes I look at these and I think, you know what? This has stood the test of time and it's worthy to be tracked going forward. So...
yeah. John, I mean, you consistently put out great advice. Like you said, you should never just follow something blindly, but you can see that if someone did, the results are in their favor. And I think that the sports books have given us a gift with this one. So I definitely like Wade Miley and company in this game.
Yeah, I'm glad you're on the same side. You know, that makes me feel a little bit more confident. But a lot of times, Bobby, I'll tell you the truth, the mental part of, you know, my days trading on Wall Street as an institutional trader, you know, in the crude oil pits, for example, currencies, and sports betting. Sometimes when I make a bet, then this is like really good. It doesn't win, and when I'm thinking,
we've all been
and when
there.
I'm thinking like, what the hell am I doing? It comes through somehow. Like I'll never forget the game last year. My models came up with the Jets plus 14.5 at home over Seattle. And it also suggested doing a money line play. So it's ridiculous as someone, you know, imagine someone paying $25 for that pick and then they see it's the Jets. And I'm saying, like, sprinkle a little of the money line. They probably thought I was, you know, eating too many mushrooms. You know, it's just
you kind
crazy.
of just, like, close your eyes and hand your money over to the gate.
Yeah, that, you know, for whatever it's worth. But in the NFL here, it's starting to get pretty exciting now. We heard some rumors coming out of big media outlets saying that Rodgers was going to announce his retirement, and you saw something on Instagram, and I'll let you share. But it looks like we might see that quarterback under center for the Packers this year. So tell us about the Instagram post.
Yeah, so there's been a lot of rumors swirling as of late about the possibility that Rodgers retires. Once again, the Packers came off the board, which is a shame because until late last week, probably even Friday morning, I'd wager, but definitely on Thursday, different sports books had them at 11 wins. So that was a no-brainer if Rodgers isn't going to be around to play the under. And so him and Davante Adams over the weekend, I'm sure a lot of the viewers saw this, but they posted the same exact picture of Michael Jordan and Scottie Pippen fist bumping as they walk off the floor, as if to say, this is going to be our last dance, our final go around in Green Bay. It's a legitimate Lombardi contender as long as those two are in the mix. So perhaps they have decided, it seems, according to Ian Rappaport, that Rodgers is going to ride it out. I think that Davante Adams is going to stick around. Now, the flip side is losing them for nothing at the end of the season. But like I said, a legitimate title contender as long as those two are there.
Yeah, it's well put because that's exactly what the situation is, and they probably will. I think those two would try to go to the same team if they move on. No doubt there.
Yeah, well, with Adams, his contract comes to an end after this season, and the negotiations have broken off. It doesn't seem like Green Bay is interested in making him the highest paid wide receiver in the NFL. So, like I said, getting a comp pick for Davante Adams, and who knows with Rodgers, where perhaps the possibility of retirement becomes more legitimate. Once again, the idea of losing two premier players for next to Gagoots, that doesn't sit well with me and seems like poorly managing your operation.
Yeah, it's pretty similar to what the front office did in Philadelphia with the Eagles too, and basically telling Zach Ertz last year that they didn't have enough money to pay his salary this year, but they seem to have moved enough money. Carson Wentz's contract was huge, but that actually doesn't count until next year in full. So it was only a partial offset with that. But it's a very complicated formula. It's the luxury tax thing is difficult to understand as the rules of golf. And if you understand one of them, you're way ahead of the game. But in the win, I know you have some teams in the NFL you want to talk about with win totals. So I'm dying to know where you're going with it.
Yeah, certainly. I'll start with one of the most popular picks. It's certainly not going against the grain here, but the Tampa Bay Buccaneers over 11.5. Again, I'm using Bet Online, so you can find that figure over 11.5 at minus 155. They won 11 games last year. Now they've got an extra opportunity this season to eclipse that mark. The band is back together, so that figures to lead to more continuity and a better version of the Bucs, even as well as they played down the stretch in the postseason to win the Super Bowl. And with Tom Brady's leadership and the fact that he's someone who knows what it takes to not just get to the top of the mountain, but stay there as opposed to fall off the cliff, I think that he is going to have this group motivated, ready to navigate the season with that target on the back as the defending champions. So I like the Bucs at over 11.5. Again, that's from Bet Online at minus 155.
Yeah, I like that play too. And I'm not a big prop better, but I do play these for pizza money, as I like to call it. And minus 155, you're getting a tremendous value because if you look at the Bucs schedule, you can easily see 13 wins.
Absolutely.
The problem is, if God forbid Brady would get hurt or something like that, then maybe they don't get 13. But they're so deep. You still have the great wide receiver core, and I actually forget who the backup quarterback is.
Well, they drafted Kyle Trask. I'm not sure if he'll be the number 2. And then, as far as the veterans go, they have Blaine Gabbert. I think he's still there.
That's right. Yep.
And then they have someone else. It's like Ryan Davis or something. It's kind of a generic name, not a particularly impressive individual. So like you said, if Brady goes down, they're in big trouble. But those caveats always apply, whether you're talking about betting or just how far a team can go in general. And if I can pivot now, John, just after a quick glass of haterade, a team that I would definitely fade are the New Orleans Saints. I have them at under 9 wins. You can get that at minus 125. Emmanuel Sanders had the second most catches on the team last season. He's gone. Michael Thomas played 7 games and still managed to rank 3rd in that category. He's expected to miss the start of the season after having surgery on torn ankle ligaments in June. Jared Cook was 4th. He's out as well. So at the tight end position, one of the most valuable, not just offensively, but in all of football, they're relying heavily on Adam Trautman, a second-year tight end who didn't show that much as a rookie. We know that it takes time for tight ends to develop because the college game is so different than getting to the next level and adjusting to it. So that is putting a lot of weight on his shoulders. And then they signed Nick Vanett, who only had 14 catches in 15 games with the Broncos last season. They did Jameis Winston or Taysom Hill, whoever the starter is going to become, no favors. And I'm not a believer in either one of them. Hill hasn't been particularly impressive as a passer to this point. And the Jameis Winston that we knew in Tampa Bay is someone who consistently struggled to take care of the football. Maybe it's different if he takes the starting spot in New Orleans, but I would need to see that before betting on it. So like I said, I would bet against the Saints reaching 9 wins this season.
Yeah, and I agree with that too, because for all the reasons you said, he's not there anymore, and I have to be shown first before I can believe in any other quarterback that goes under center for the Saints. So I like that bet too. Any others?
Yeah, I got one more for you. I would go with the Rams at over 10.5 wins. You can get that at plus 105. Just to state it again, I know I'm a broken record here, but I'm going off Bet Online just to keep people updated here. And their defense in 2020, I know a lot of the attention's on the acquisition of Stafford, rightfully so, but their defense is one of the best in the NFL. And it feels like for the casual fan, at least, that can go under the radar. But they gave up the fewest points. They surrendered the least amount of yards and yards per play. They allowed the fewest first downs. They ranked in the top 10 in turnovers, and they were tied with the Jacksonville Jaguars for the 4th fewest penalties. So this is one of the premier and most stout and stingy defenses the NFL has to offer. And then, like I said, Sean McVay finally gets the right signal caller for him. That's a great marriage between him and Stafford. And the Rams offense last season had the 7th most turnovers. They ranked 26th in passing touchdowns with Jared Goff at the helm. So that's a significant upgrade. And I understand that the NFC West is the toughest conference in the NFL, but the Rams managed to win 10 games last year with their struggles on offense. So I like them to eclipse 10.5 wins.
Awesome stuff. And simply said, the one I have gone to the window with, and I've said this many times now over the past 3 weeks, is I think the Patriots are one of the most undervalued teams in the NFL. And I know that there's probably people listening to this, wanting to yell and scream at me and saying, "What are you talking about?" And that's fine. We can discuss all of this on Manny's Pub at 4:00 Eastern, Monday through Friday. That's what the purpose of that show is. But at 9.5 wins, I'm getting plus money here at Bet Online, and I like that fact. And I just think that with all the COVID ops they had last year that opted out, and you have the kid from Alabama has a football IQ like you can't even believe, and talk is that he already has the playbook down, and would be allowed to do audibles and just basically be full force right out of the chute if that would happen. Cam Newton probably starts at least the first 4 games, I would think, before they would put in Mr. Jones into the lineup. But I think they had a tremendous draft. And now that they have everybody back, I think they're going to be a lot better than what people remember last year. And that's that recency bias working against the public better.
Yeah, it's a small climb for the Patriots to go from where they were last season to eclipsing 9 wins. And their defense was really good last year, despite concerns, or at least their passing defense was really good. They tend to get gashed against the run, but they loaded up on the edge. They get Hightower back. Kyle Van Noy returns to Foxborough. They signed Matthew Judon, one of the top edge defenders on the free agent market this offseason. So it's a really promising front seven that they've tried to bolster. You mentioned Alabama. Their second-round pick was Christian Barmore, a stout defensive tackle who can also generate pressure from the interior. Then, of course, offensively, they needed to get better. They draft Mac Jones. We'll see who wins that battle. I think that Belichick is the type of loyalist who he's going to ride it out, especially I think Cam starts the season. I think he's going to give him a long leash, and if he needs to pull the plug, then he'll do it. But you had 2 versatile tight ends in Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. Bill Belichick loves himself some Hunter Henry, dating back to Henry's high school days. And so to finally get him in the fold, I think that this offense, they finally have a deep threat in Nelson Aguilar. And that's Cam Newton's strengths right now at this day, in this stage in his career, is obviously toting the rock, but then being able to throw long. He's not going to sink the short putts like Brady did. So to add someone who can take the top off like Nelson Aguilar is a great compliment to a team that wants to get back to playing smash mouth football.
Yeah, it's interesting you brought up Aguilar's name because the Eagles fans
loved
hated
in Philadelphia.
and I kept saying it was 2 years ago, and in the advanced metrics, the number 1 wide receiver in the NFL 2 seasons ago on yards of separation from the defender was him, and they basically ran him out of Philly. So
yeah, he had a lot of problems when it came to holding on to the football, and especially adjusting as the ball came down on those deep routes. I thought that the Raiders mixed it up, and what we saw is how effective he is when he gets to play more at the Z, so more in the middle of the offense where he doesn't have to worry about press coverage and guys getting their hands on him at the line of scrimmage. And that allowed him to take advantage. Like you said, it's not a surprise that someone with that caliber of speed and quickness is able to separate from defenders.
That's true. That's true. This is great stuff, Bobby. I know you have to get going. Wish we could talk for another hour, to tell you the truth. But any final words here? Anything going on over at Sports Map Radio, and anything else you want to mention is fine.
Appreciate that, John. I'll just plug tonight's show, the Die Hard Sports Map Radio Network. I'll be on there from 8 p.m. Eastern to 10 p.m. Eastern. We got a lot to dive into, some of which we've just started to cover. Of course, the news out of Lambeau is certainly going to be on tonight's menu. So if you want to tune in, we are on 96 radio stations around the country, but an even easier way to figure it out and tune in is going to be sportsmapradio.com. There's also an app, Sports Map Radio app, if you want to download. So I certainly think that going the digital route is how I would approach it.
Yeah, it's great stuff, and I'm honored to be on Sports Map Radio for sure. It's my most look forward to appearance. It's about 15 minutes of rapid-fire stuff. This show's a little bit less quick hitting, less less urgency with the time, but that's how radio shows are run, folks. You know, it's like TV. You know, you can binge Netflix and not worry about the time, but if you're watching, you know, NBC prime time, everything is down to the 10th of a second.
John, if it wasn't true, I'd throw a different compliment your way, but you are legitimately one of my favorite guests to have on the program. Your advice, and like you said, we do rapid fire, try to get to as many different topics as possible, and doesn't matter whether we're talking about Olympic swimming, basketball, baseball, hockey, it's consistently excellent and profitable.
Yeah, I have a problem promoting myself because I like to keep things humble, but we did do a promo on your show for 2 free weeks of my premium service. So I'm going to do this here on the fly.
Definitely.
And all you have to do is send me a direct message that this is, you know, you saw the show with Bobby Krivitsky, and that's all you need to tell me, and give me an email, and you'll get two free weeks to test drive the service, and I think you'll be really glad that you did it. And here's my recent streaks. So NFL last year was one of the high-end years I've ever had in 27 years of doing this. The Bulls and the playoffs were, I would say, almost borderline ridiculous. I don't remember ever hitting 74% over that many plays over that stretch of time during the playoffs and the Bulls, but it happened. And now baseball, and the models are liking totals. I had two days, Saturday and Sunday, with 3 totals, which is really rare for me. It's 3 each in each day. We went 5-1. We went 3-0 yesterday. So, you know, 2 weeks free of what you're seeing in front of you. I know if I was looking at this and I wasn't looking at my picture of myself there, I'd be signing up to the second.
It's a no-brainer. It is an easy decision. We put the word out on Sports Map Radio Friday night on the Diehards, plugged it on social media, and if you're listening, I can't imagine not taking advantage of this offer. It's a 2-week free promo. You really have nothing to lose, and John's track record, you just saw it on the screen, speaks for itself.
I appreciate the kind words, Bobby. So with that said, that brings us to the end for this show, but we'll be doing more with Bobby, that's for sure. And on behalf of Bobby, the Sports Map Radio, Predictive Playbook, WagerTalk.com, and SportsMemo.com, may all the wins be yours.